Darin Peterson apparently does not want to come to Utah. Doesn't matter. Draft him anyway because we're playoff bound soon and winning cures all. This is Locked On Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Jazz Nation? Welcome into Locked On Jazz. My name's Leif Thulin. Excited to fill in for you once again for David Locke on Locked On Jazz. For those of you who know me, thanks for tuning in. For those who don't, I'm a statistician for the Utah Jazz, draft nerd, diehard fan of the Utah Jazz, and how I want the Jazz to be great again. Thanks for making Locked On Jazz your first listen each and every day. Remember, Locked On Jazz is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Jazz. Or the best way to help us grow is comment anything below. And today's question is, what is your timeline for when the Jazz are playoff contenders again? I'll break that down shortly. By the way, today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Today on the show, I'll release my first big board of the 2026 NBA draft class, break down each prospect in my top 10, but for us, the top 8, and finish with discussing the Utah Jazz's timeline to contention. And I mean true NBA playoff contenders. So let's dive right in without further ado. So you guys know my number one. It's Darin Peterson. And I led off of the show saying Darin Peterson doesn't want to come to Utah. There's a report that says he has 2 preferred destinations to avoid, and it's the Utah and Sacramento. And, of course, we're kind of used to this now. It's disappointing. It's frustrating. Well, Ace Bailey and Omar Cooper and all the shenanigans going on there had the preferred destination of Washington. And I don't think that in today's day and age that the I want to go here is as strong as it was when Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, and all those guys pulled it off in 2004. And yeah, there's player empowerment, and there's different stuff. But if the Jazz are going to win soon, which I truly believe they will, and I'll touch on that, and you can add the best player in the draft class, which I firmly believe is Darin Peterson, no matter if he wants to be here or not, whether that rumor is true or not, of course, do your due diligence, you draft the best player. You draft the best player, and that's Darin Peterson to me. So that's where I'll start off my big board. Number 1, Darin Peterson. Darin Peterson is a unique blend of talent, skill, and fluidity that you just don't see very frequently. You just don't see guys who can score the ball as simply and as easily as Darin Peterson. And I wish there were more of them because his injury has made it so you don't get to see that guy very frequently. And so Darin Peterson scores 20 a game, and I think will come into the NBA scoring over 20 a game. The comparisons to Kobe are tough to live up to, obviously. But what I do think needs to be understood is that I haven't seen anyone compared to Kobe. I don't know if you guys have, but, you know, there's always the Kevin Durant for any slender guy. But somehow Kobe's been off limits. Kobe has been off limits for the skill, the fluidity, the drive, the multifaceted approach to how he scores the basketball, the patience, the shot making from 3 different levels, from 3, from mid-range, from all the way to the rack, the athleticism to dunk on people like Keba Keita, poor guy, got postered by Darin Peterson. Darin Peterson can stop on a dime, hit a mid-range, and he's one of the best shooters in this class. In a class loaded with shooters, I think the most talented shooter is Darin Peterson. Darin Peterson has 4-level scoring where he can hide behind screens and shoot from 25 off a dribble, and he also can catch on a flare, square his hips, and knock down shots. He would fit beautifully in Utah, running off ball or on the ball. And like I said, I believe he's the best fit for the Jazz on the show yesterday, but I also think he's the most talented player. And when you can fit talent and fit a team, when you have that talent and you can fit it onto a team like the Jazz are built with Keyonte George, Darin Peterson, Jaren Jackson, Lauri Markkanen, and Walker Kessler, the timeline is now. And so if he doesn't want to be here, if that is true, you still draft him because that guy will play. And I'm sick of the DNP jokes. Darin, it's Darin Peterson, DP. And then they add the end for did not participate, did not play, whatever. Darin Peterson is so good that I think all those jokes are going to go by the wayside. And then if he ends up with some horrible injury, the fans that are rooting for that to prove their agenda right are wrong. They're not good basketball fans. I think it's a silly thing to say, to root for an injury to prove a point. Okay, Darin Peterson's number 1 on my board. Number 2 on my board is AJ Dybantsa. That will make a lot of you guys happy because I talked about how AJ Dybantsa does many things well. What he does best is he manipulates the game in a good way. And yes, there's a complaint about foul grifting, and he's able to get to the rim. But what I do think happens is there's more space to operate in the NBA, and some of his long strides athleticism is more demonstrated in a spacing of the NBA game as opposed to the lack thereof of a college game. AJ is able to draw double teams frequently because he's so talented. He sees two, sprays the ball out. His processing has improved drastically. His jump shots added arc already, which would be one of my nitpicks I would put as a weakness. He is a 3-level scorer, someone who can shoot the three, I think, someone who certainly can score in the mid-range and can put pressure on the rim, and is a facilitator at 6'9". He's a special talent. Went to high school in Utah for a year, went to BYU for a year. The Utah thing about him, I think he's mighty comfortable, and I think he's revered here and loved, and his work ethic speaks volumes to how well he plays. Number 3 for me is dicier, because I do think there's something to be said about Cam Boozer, that Cam Boozer is not the athlete that Caleb Wilson. He's not the athlete that Darryn Peterson or AJ Dybantsa are. Those things matter to me in terms of reaching the absolute pinnacle. I think AJ and Darren will be multiple-time All-NBA guys. I think Cam Boozer's floor and ceiling are closer, meaning that he's going to be a 10-time All-Star type of guy. I do think Cam Boozer's, the question for those who are detractors of Cam Boozer that they ask is, can his bag of finishes, which are all below the rim, which are kind of old school post play, can that work? And I think that's fair. But we've seen proof in the pudding of Jokic, Şengün, Sabonis, guys like that can really score the ball without elevating. And they can score from the top of the key. They can push into the paint, use post moves, use power. My question is more about, he's a tweener. Like Jokic, and we're talking about the best player in the world right here, but Jokic, there's no question on what position he plays. He's a center, and he's big for his position. He's 6'11", 280 pounds. And I don't know what he's listed at, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's heavier than that. Like, he is a gargantuan human being. And Boozer is a big guy, and he's not particularly fleet of foot, but he's not a vertical stopper of shots, and he's not someone who moves his feet so beautifully on defense that you're like, oh, yeah, like, he can make this work. He's savvy. He's smart. So the detraction to me is he plays the 5 on offense, the 4 on defense, and how many teams can really do that and rebound out of it? The thing about Boozer is he can really rebound. To me, like I said in a previous episode, he's like a modern-day version of what Kevin Love was coming out of UCLA. It's a really good basketball player. Is he an option A on a winning team? Not as positive as the other two, and that's why he's number 3. Caleb Wilson is number 4 for me. For the Utah Jazz, it's a fit that I don't necessarily love, but I do think there is upside for him to play multiple positions. Caleb Wilson is perhaps the best athlete in the class. He's got a relentless motor, someone who's improved drastically as a jump shooter. He can rebound. He leads the country in dunks as a power forward playing next to another big, which is really hard to do. Double-double machine. I've compared him to Gerald Wallace in Nick Claxton's body. I saw a clip of Sean Marion the other day, and I thought, you know what? Like, they've got different body frames, but can he play similarly to what Sean Marion did with the Suns, where Marion was a run-and-gun 4, played small ball 4, even played the 5 when they were in a pinch, and was able to rebound, use his athleticism and speed to slash to the rim. Even though he had an unconventional jump shot, still shot the ball when left open. Caleb Wilson, I can kind of see that. And if you're drafting that in the top 5, I'm absolutely on board. The question then for the Jazz is about fit. And the question would be, okay, is Jaren Jackson going to slide to the 5 and Caleb Wilson's the 4, or what happens to Walker Kessler? I think that same question is asked for Cam Boozer. So that's the top 4. That's the top 4 for just about everyone. Now 5 through 8 is where it gets interesting for the Utah Jazz. We'll discuss that next on Locked On Jazz. Welcome to 5 Hour Energy's Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which may be sleepers, because everyone loves a sleeper. The board is set and the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5 Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors, something for everyone. And here is my Cinderella pick. Will they go all the way? Who knows? It's cotton candy. a delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, and a hint of delicious vanilla. The sweet side of a tasty caffeine. That is a sleeper pick right there. And then back to the top of my draft board, a can't miss prospect. I got to go with berry. Big, bold berry flavor, slightly sweet, very fruity flavor, and a classic mixed berry flavor with notes of raspberry and blackberry. Little tart, little sweet. I love it. So find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Welcome back, Jazz fans. Get Locked On Jazz ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus Locked On Jazz All Access on the Discord or the shows that I put out talking about draft prospects. Lock's got special content for All Access and Supercast. So for the All Access members, I'll give you guys breakdowns of the NBA draft and my thoughts on the Jazz 3 times a week in 10-minute video forms. Lock has tons of special Jazz content for you guys, and it's all for $5 a month or $50 a year. And of course, you can hop on the Discord for the best and most inclusive Jazz talk that there is. And it is better than the Twitter chat with all these crazy people. It's moderated, and there's tons of amazing Jazz talk. So welcome back, Jazz fans. Leif Thulin with you here. Let's carry on my big board. We talked about my 5-Hour Energy big board. Let's get back to my NBA draft one. So I went 1 through 4, and it was no surprise. I got Darren Peterson, AJ Dybantsa, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson. Now 5 is where the draft really opens up. And most people, I think, would tell you Kingston Flemings is number 5. I was asked about Kingston Flemings in the mailbag episode a few times, so I addressed him. But I'm a guy who believes in the upside, that you have to have this transformative nature to make yourself a top 5 pick in a great draft class. In a bad class, you can get by with being really steady. But I'm going to go with Michael Brown at number 5 for my first board. And here's my reason. He's a guy that was a late bloomer. By the way, he's a Louisville point guard who can really score the ball, has had some turnover woes, battled through some injuries this year. And if you're asking me who's a better college basketball player, I would say Kingston Flemings. But this is about the NBA draft. And what I'm projecting forward is Michael Brown's ability to stretch the floor from 25 feet and in and use the threat of his shot to drive and the threat of his drive to pass and the threat of his speed to drive to shoot. Like, I love the way he can manipulate the game with all of that. And he's got this it factor about when he plays, everyone around him gets better. When he was playing at Team USA, I thought he was the best player in a team that included AJ Dybantsa, and a team that included Koa Pete, guys that are all-American caliber college basketball players, and they were all on one team. And Michael Brown, for just about all the tournament, was the best player on the best team. And that Team USA won. They beat Germany, and he shined throughout the entire tournament. So when he's playing against people his own age, he's fantastic. When he's playing against older guys, watch out. I mean, he just scored 46 the other day. And if you look at recent statistics for Michael Brown, you're seeing a guy that shoots the ball well, shoots the ball often, and it was after a terrible start from 3. He started 28%. He's up to 35%. He's shooting 42% from the field, 35 from 3, 84 from the line. To me, he can shoot. That's a good indicator. 5 assists, nearly 3.5 boards, scores 19 a game on a team that gets up and down, and he's a star. When he plays, they play well. And if you look at his recent outings, he played against NC State, scored 45 points, 10 of 16 from 3, 7 of 7 from the line. Then he played Baylor. Baylor's got Tunde Yesufu. And Cam Carr. Both guys are NBA prospects, and both guys defended him. 29 points on 8 of 14 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3, 9 of 9 from the free throw line. Not to mention he had 6 assists in that one and 5 steals. Then he played SMU. SMU, they lost in this game, but he had 29 points on 11 of 18 shooting, 4 of 8 from 3. So all of those he shot very, very well from 3, got to the rim, and created free throw attempts, and he went 100% in those games from the free throw line. 5 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals. He's had games with high turnovers, but he has an absurdly high usage rate. And to me, his upside and ability to put pressure on the rim and score the basketball will bear out positive results. That's probably the boldest pick on my list, but I'd take Michael Brown right now by a hair over Kingston Flemings. That leads me to Kingston Flemings at 6. Kingston Flemings, I mentioned his stop and start is unbelievable. He goes right, he elevates from the mid-range, and it's silky smooth. He's playing point guard and is the best player, should be an All-American on a number one seed caliber team in Houston. His passing leaves a little bit more to be desired for me, but it's not bad. I think that's one thing that I see Brown as being capable of. I will say that I do think Brown and Keyonte George are touch redundant. I think they're similar players. Brown's got a little more burst to him. Keontae's got a little more physicality to him. And I'm not saying Keontae's overly physical. I just think Michael Brown right now is very slender. I want to point out about Kingston Flemings that Kingston Flemings, I think, is more naturally adept at playing the two guard. So he would fit better with the Jazz than Michael Brown. So when the Jazz potentially are talking about drafting a guard, there's a real world where I would prefer Kingston Flemings to Michael Brown. But my overall big board, I think I lean potential. And I think potential-wise, you'd see more potential of being a star for Michael Brown. Kingston Flemings absolutely can be a star because he can score from all three levels. He's quick as a cat, puts pressure on the rim, and has a competitive spirit and a takeover mode when the game gets tight that I really think bodes well for a guy who's young and he's on a team that's certainly capable and has tremendous expectations. He chose to go play for Kelvin Sampson, and while people say, oh, that makes you a great defender, I still think that's his biggest weakness, but it means he's willing to work on it. It means he's willing to take the path less traveled for guys that are usually ascendancy is clear that they're going to be picks and they're going to be coddled. No, he's getting some tough love and he's improving drastically throughout the season. This is a guy who was not a 5-star surefire, like, yeah, he's going to be a top 10 pick, unlike Michael Brown, who's been that for a while. So that's my number 6. Number 7, I think, is a little bit of a surprise. I am going with a guard. And everyone's going to say, okay, it's a guard. It's a top 10 team. It's got to be Keaton Wagler. And what's funny is I loved Keaton Wagler, I think, before anyone. But I think Braden Burries' game from Arizona, and I watch all their games hosting Locked On Wildcats. I watch all their games, and Braden Burries started the year horribly, averaging 8 points per game on terrible efficiency. And then since then, he's been an All-American, 18 points per game in Big 12 play, shooting to cover off the ball, a 72% finisher at the rim. Not percentile, 72% at the rim. Shoots from three on catch really well, shoots off the mid-range, off the bounce really well, knocks down everything near the rim, plays with tremendous force, rebounds the ball at 6 boards per game in Big 12 play, assists the ball on pick and roll, has capacity to play on or off the ball, size to play the 1 or the 2. And I was talking to Tony Jones, and we both were like, is this Devin Booker? Is this guy Devin Booker hiding in plain sight? And yes, he's a 5-star prospect, so I'm aware it's not this like, wow, what a trajectory. But usually when a guy's a 5-star prospect who's putting up 17 a game on a team that was number 1 in the country for the vast majority of the season, you're typically thinking, yeah, that guy's a top 10 pick. And I haven't seen many people say he's a top 10 pick. So number 7 for me, and a good fit to me, is Braden Burries for the Utah Jazz. Obviously, I want the Jazz to get the number 1 pick. I want the Jazz number 2 in the top. But if we're talking about fits and upside, I think he's a guy that makes a ton of sense. Number 8 is Keaton Wagler. Keaton Wagler is a guy that I loved very early in the process because I thought, wow, this guy's really good. Why isn't he getting the ball more frequently? Keaton Wagler was the beneficiary of an injury that removed Kylan Boswell from the point guard position. Keaton Wagler assumed those roles and instantly dropped 46 points at Purdue, at Mackey Arena, scored 28 or more in back-to-back games against ranked competitions on the road. Like, the guy's a gamer. He shoots the ball. He's 6'6", one of the best shooters in the class. I mentioned Darin Peterson to me is the most talented shooter in this class. Keaton Wagler has a claim for being the best. His stats are nearly identical to college Con Knippel. If you look at the advanced metrics, they're identical prospects in terms of how well they shoot, the frequency with which they shoot. The only thing that is different is the usage rate is far, far higher for Wagler. And he has more assists, has more rebounds than Knippel, and his catch and shoot numbers, very good. His off the dribble, higher usage rate, better percentage. I'm not saying he's Con Knippel. They play differently. The similarity is they both rely on guile as opposed to straight line speed. Both of them play cleverly and use their 2 feet and draw fouls and shoot open threes. They're heady, steady basketball players that end up shooting the ball very well. And in a world where 6'6" and can shoot is really in vogue, I think he's a clear-cut top 10 pick, despite lacking tremendous athleticism. So that's top 8. The Jazz can only draft in the top 8. I will address 9 and 10 because there are guys I want to mention. Number 9 for me is Nate Ament. I have been critical of Nate Ament because I think he, at the start of the year, was taking hard shots, did not show an ability to separate from anyone defending him. And he is 6'10", and everyone says, oh, it's Brandon Ingram, it's Kevin Durant. It's insert player that's slender and can handle the ball whatsoever. Well, he was struggling to create separation against the non-conference teams. He's gone to SEC play and has rattled off a lot of good games in a row, and that's impressive. His shot is not as good as I think it was built to be. His creation ability is not the next Kevin Durant, but he's good at a lot of things. He's 6'10" and can shoot the ball pretty well. I think strength is important for him, much like Cody Williams, much like Ace Bailey, but he's got undeniable skills that I think will have him drafted in the top 10. Number 10 for me is a guy who is rebounding the ball very well, and the rest of his stats look fairly pedestrian. It's a guy by the name of Chris Sinak from Houston. He is Khalil Ware 2.0. And, there's good and bad there. But when you look at just athleticism, rebounding, ability to shoot the ball, and defensive capacity. I'm not going to say he's great yet, but just the capacity to be an impact defender, both blocking shots, sliding his feet. It's hard for me to overlook the talent that's just in front of our eyes at Houston. Like, he was thought to be the better prospect between he and Kingston Flemings. It is Kingston Flemings. But I think because Kingston Flemings has been so good, somehow Chris Sinak has been discounted. And Chris Sinak, to me, is 6'11", 240 pounds, long arms, moves his feet well, shoots 36% from three, and is one of the best rebounders in the country as a 19-year-old. That's very difficult to be, not to mention he plays alongside JoJo Tugler, who swallows up a ton of rebounds. That is my top 10 for the NBA draft in 2026. Please let me know your guys' thoughts. Who am I missing? Who am I too high on? Who am I too low on? I'll check the comments. I'll try to conversate with you guys about those. And also, hit me up on Twitter. It's just my name, Leif Thulin. We'll talk about that there. Coming up next, though, I'm going to talk about something that's near and dear to both our hearts. When are the Jazz going to make the playoffs? And when are the Jazz going to do more than make the playoffs and truly contend? All that next on Locked On Jazz. New year, new systems, but this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And now there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. And your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing ever gets missed. And everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. And it's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. QUO, Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers, and certainly no missed opportunities. I also want to tell you about our friends at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting wide open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, and right now, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat for you that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes, less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And the listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to get help to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All righty, welcome back to Locked On Jazz. Leif Thulin with you here. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I wanted to end on a thought that is near and dear to our hearts because we want to make the playoffs. Come on. I love draft talk, and it's been fun having a lot of draft picks recently, but it's nowhere near as fun as when I go to the arena and I think the energy, the infectious crowd noise that has my eardrums hurting for days after, that I love like nothing else, is soon. And that is how I feel for the first time in 4 years. Since the Jazz traded Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, I believe the Jazz will be a playoff team next year. I believe the Jazz will be a playoff team next year because I think Jaren Jackson is an all-star. So essentially the Jazz acquired an all-star, and I know we gave up stuff. So don't take this as a crass statement of, oh, we gave up nothing. But effectively the Jazz gave up nothing that hurts, that hinders the team from moving forward immediately to get an all-star. They also kept Lauri Markkanen, Keyonte George, and both of them, you can make cases, are all-stars this season. And they get back Walker Kessler, who is one of the up-and-coming rim protectors in the NBA. Not to mention, the Jazz have an opportunity to draft in the top 8, perhaps even the top 4 of what is a very, very good class. I hesitate to call it the best ever, but it wouldn't shock me if it's up there in terms of depth with the best classes ever. And when I talk about depth, I'm talking about the depth, meaning depth of stars. I'm not going to say it's better than 03 because LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, sorry to Darko Milicic, but those guys are different. And there's 4 guys that I don't think you'll ever be confident to say that there are 4 of them in another class. That said, I think there might be more all-stars in this class than there were in that one. We'll see. We'll discuss that in years to come. But let's say the Jazz land a guy who not only can become an all-star, but can just contribute from day one. And we talked about displacing Ace Bailey from a starting lineup. If you're able to displace Ace Bailey from a starting lineup, you're getting a really good player, because I think Ace Bailey on a team without as much talent that's already there moves to a 20 to 22 per game score. I think he moves to his 17, 18 per game by year 3 and 4, like I talked about earlier this week. You're getting guys like Ace Bailey, Keyonte George, Lauri Markkanen, insert draft pick Jaren Jackson, and Walker Kessler to be the core. I told you I'm bullish about Cody Williams. I told you guys I really believe that the core next year without a draft pick probably is a play-in team. Let's say you hit a home run on the draft pick, you're a playoff team without the play-in at all, top 6. I think the Jazz are playing in a playoff, not just a play-in. They may be in the play-in, but make the playoff next year. But then the question is really, how soon are we contending? Because the window for contention is narrow. And I think it really depends on who the Jazz draft. Because if you drafted Darin Peterson, I think the window to contend is not the next year, not because it's just so hard to win as a rookie and having a big shoulder to bear. But if you get a guy on a rookie deal that's precocious like Darin Peterson, like AJ Dybantsa, I mean, Victor Wembanyama is the exact example of this. The Spurs have a chance because they have Victor Wembanyama, and they have other good players that they're paying money. Well, Victor is paid less than he is worth, because he is worth one of the highest contracts in the NBA easily. If the Jazz can land a guy who has superstar potential, while Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson are probably overpaid for what their relative ranking per best teams in the NBA are. Like, neither of them are number 1 options. I would say neither of them are safe number 2 options to win a championship. But if you have both of them paid a lot, but paid less as the years go on, alongside a guy on a rookie deal, alongside another guy on a rookie deal in Ace Bailey, and then you have guys that would be re-signed in the case of Kessler and George. Of course, there's monetary decisions to be made. I think the Jazz can win a couple playoff series just 2 seasons from now. I think you get year 2 of the rookie that comes into this class. If the Jazz land a 2026 rookie, let's just say it's Darin Peterson for the sake of simplicity. The Jazz land Darin Peterson. I think they're in the playoffs next year. And I think in 2027, 28, that full season, I think the Jazz win a series or 2. So I think the true contention, the chance to win a championship, Western Conference Finals, is year 3 and 4 for the rookies coming in here. Jaren Jackson is under team control. Lauri Markkanen under team control. You make your decisions. They may not be on the team at that point, but they're ushering the new path forward. The torch is being handed off. Ideally, if everything goes well, the torch is being handed off from this is Lauri's team to this is Darin Peterson's team. And there's an intermediate phase where Keyonte George, Jaren Jackson, Lauri Markkanen, and all of them coalesce. They work very well together. You hope you win then, but the Jazz's window opens as they have a star to turn the franchise over to. It's the way the NBA works. The face of a franchise is typically drafted by a team, and the Jazz aren't going to get guys in free agency. So you draft your star, your homegrown star, and you have shrewd acquisitions that you pay and keep on board. And that, in this case, is Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson. They help bring you along, and then you further your team as you see fit. As you see those little issues happening, you're like, oh, you know what? This would be a nice piece. Look at what the Thunder did. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I know that was through a trade, but they got the rest of the guys through the draft. And then they said, you know what? Like, we're a little bit redundant. Josh Giddey's a good player. Let's go get Alex Caruso. They win a championship. The way of the NBA is win while substantial pieces of your team, if not the best players, are paid not like your best players, and you surround them with very good players, and that's your window. To me, the Jazz can win a championship in 4 to 6 years. I think they can win a couple playoff series. If all goes well, they draft well, health, all these things. Tons of stuff has to go right. But I'm an optimist. I will continue to believe in our Utah Jazz. But what has to happen is the Jazz have to hit on a draft pick, and they need to stay healthy. And the guys that are currently there and youthful and important to the future have to continue to grow. For the first time in 4 years, where I was extremely frustrated that the Jazz started 10-3 the year after trading the Donovan and Rudy, and Victor Wembanyama was the gift, the prize that you could have had. Nope, 10-3. Then the next year we were 26-26 through 52 games. Devastated, even though I don't think that class was good. I wanted Stephon Castle. He's been pretty good. Not game-changing, but pretty darn good. Last year, the Jazz tried their best, tried to get a good pick. Didn't work out in terms of getting Cooper Flag, but you got Ace Bailey. You give yourself enough chances, you're going to get a great guy. And I think the Jazz are just one guy away, one dude away from truly contending for years to come. That's my honest to goodness belief, and I sure hope I'm right. Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Jazz today. Thanks for listening. I love hopping on the show and talking to you guys. David Locke takes over tomorrow, back on Locked On Jazz, and the All-Star break is over. So make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Jazz so you get all the latest episodes with David Locke or myself. And you can talk to me or David Locke on Twitter. I think his is DLocke09. Mine is Leif Thulin with the L and the T capitalized. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for people like you. So get Locked On Jazz, ad-free, and plus members-only Discord access and more. Just head to lockedonjazz.supercast.com, and the link is in the show notes to join the club. So for those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you make your second listen, NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Thanks for listening, of course. And as always, go Jazz.